Hey folks, welcome back to For StarCraft 2 Strategy. Today we're going to be taking a look at a Protoss strategy. Now in this particular replay, our Protoss player is MTW's Night End, and our Zerg opponent is Osho. So this is a Protoss strategy, and this is going to be a good strategy against Zerg opponents. Wrong vision there. So Protoss, here we go. What are we looking at today? Today we're going to be looking at a 3-gate Robo build. So obviously that's different from a 4-gate or a 2-gate Robo or any of those other types of builds. But specifically what we're looking at today is dealing with the aggression that comes from a Zerg opponent playing off one base. Now, obviously, as you probably know by now, a lot of Zerg players, they like to play on two-base play. That gives them a strong economy, and it allows them to transition into the mid-game much better. But much just the same as it is the case with Protoss and Terran opponents, when an opponent plays off of one base, they have this window of opportunity where they're really strong and they have a really large force and they can play super aggressive. This is the same case for Zerg opponents. So dealing with a Zerg opponent who's playing off of one base, especially on this map where you have that threat of the back destructible rocks, it's really going to be involved in the sense that you're going to have to make defensive measures. You're going to have to go about doing defensive maneuvers, such as playing with sentries, using those force fields, things of the sort. And specifically the build, again, that we're looking at is going to be that 3-gate Robo. And that decision, actually, to get the Robo, we're going to look at why that was made as well when it happens. So starting off with the very standard stuff, 9 Pylon, 14 supply is when we saw that gateway go down, and then at 14 supply, also seeing this Assimilator go down. So again, everything thus far, completely normal, completely standard. Scouting our opponent's base right now, we see that spawning pool and that early gas before the spawning pool, letting us know that he intends on teching up in one way or another, whether that's speedlings, whether he plans on getting roaches or banelings. There's no way of knowing now, but we do know that he intends on getting gas-intensive units or buildings pretty early on in the game. So now we're going to be dropping our Cybernetics Core, and we're going to be doing that right at the front here. As is the case against any Zerg opponent, you do need to block off in one way or another. Now obviously Terran has the added advantage of the supply depots being able to lower, so they can fully block off and then just lower depots when they want to leave. As Protoss, you don't have that advantage, so what you want to do is just create this little choke and have your Zealot hang out inside of there. Put him on stop or hold positions so that he doesn't run away when any Zerglings come in. He doesn't run out to chase them. And you just want to clog up this little hole with that Zealot, allowing you to stop any Zerglings from running into your base. Now we're going to also be getting a second Assimilator. Whether we go for a 4-gate or a 3-gate Robo or tech up to a Stargate, most Protoss builds are very gas intensive, so you do need that second Assimilator pretty early. We did get that at 22 supply. Now at 26 supply, we're going to start researching that warp gate research right away. And then we're also going to be looking to get some additional gateways shortly. But first, again, we have the Zealot at the choke. We're also going to be getting this sentry. Now, through all the scouting that we've done thus far, we actually just are leaving his base right now, so we've been there for quite some time. We have seen that he has yet to expand, so we know at this point, okay, he plans on playing aggressively, he plans on playing off of one base. Still not quite sure what his intentions on one base are, but we do know he's going for one base aggressive play. At 27 supply is when we saw these two second Assimilators. And from this point, we're just going to play with the 3-gate. We still have about halfway to go with this warp gate research. Our next decision as to whether or not we 4-gate or go for a Robotics Facility is going to largely depend on what he has for units. So it's almost vital that we get this probe inside of his base, or at least try to see the units that he's coming out with. Moving the probe up into the base, you see, there we go, we see roaches. Now this is exactly what you're going to see in response. Seeing those roaches, the response then is going to be to get this Robotics Facility. We know, again, he doesn't have expansion. We know he intends on playing aggressive off of one base. We saw those roaches, so clearly he intends on going roaches of some sort. So we're going to need this Robotics Facility so that we can get Immortals out. And if we can fend off the aggressive early game attack, then we're going to be in a pretty strong position. Now, these sentries here are going to be pretty vital as well, especially off of one base. A lot of times you are going to see Banelings in one way or another, whether it's a Baneling bust or the fact that they're just playing with Banelings, which can be really devastating. You're going to need the sentries, and you're going to need to save up energy to get force fields down to block off this back ramp. Again, this is pretty specific to this map. You see a lot more Zerg players go out for one base play on this map simply because they have those two vulnerabilities that you have to deal with, the front and the back entrance, especially with speedlings and banelings. It's really hard to concentrate on both. So these sentries become really vital. Using them as force fields become really vital. Now that the robotics facility is up, we're going to want to go ahead and get some immortals out as quickly as possible. Again, we do see these roaches. Now you can see in breaking through those back rocks, the first thing we did was put down these force fields. We're basically just trying to buy as much time as we can so we can get more units onto the board. Fully utilizing this cooldown whenever it's up. As soon as these gateways are off cooldown, these warp gates are off cooldown, you want to use them right away. Get those guys into play as quickly as possible. And again, these immortals are going to be pretty vital against any of those roaches that we're going to be seeing. Something else to note when playing with immortals or any unit that specifically is strong against certain type of units, you're going to want to target fire what it's good against. This immortal, it does no good for you if he's targeting Zerglings. So when this immortal comes into battle, you are going to want to make sure that you target fire any roaches. Now you can see again how important these force fields are. These force fields are stopping this baneling bust from running through. It's stopping the Zerglings from getting up here and damaging these buildings. Absolutely vital that you get sentries in this matchup where you're on this map and your Zerg opponent's going for one base play and they're playing really aggressively. Sentries are going to keep you alive here. You can see again those force fields cutting back his forces, making them funnel in this one direction here. And this is what I was talking about earlier. You definitely want to make sure you target fire roaches, because otherwise these immortals are going to be wasted targeting those Zerglings and or banelings. Now that we have fended off that initial push, this is where we're really going to be in a strong position. Again, due to those force fields and due to properly utilizing these immortals with target fire, we're in a really strong position. We fended off that attack. And he's been on one base for so long that if we can push out, just the strength that comes from a 3-gate Robo build is going to far surpass, after that initial push, it's going to far surpass what a Zerg player playing off of one base is going to have. So at this point, you just want to mass up a little bit of a force. Again, realize that you do want those sentries still, even just force fielding around your units. If Zerglings try to run up and get a surround on everything that you have, using that force field and then using the range of the sentry stalkers and immortals to pick off those Zerglings. You can see again, he tried to push up the front ramp, but just the threat of this one sentry due to those force fields and this choke that's caused by the zealot is going to prevent them from pulling all the way into your base. So fully utilize those units. It's really going to help you fend off any of this early aggression. And from this point forward, essentially, again, we're just going to try to push out. We should be in a strong position compared to our opponent. Something else to note is that in doing this counter push here, that probably is going to be a good time to expand. In fact, you can see that we're sitting on just enough minerals to actually go ahead and expand. So I would suggest, you fend off a push like this. The Zerg player is really far behind. I would suggest expanding at that point. It's going to be a good time, just in case this push doesn't fully succeed. It's going to be a good time for you to get a good economic advantage. And again, you can still fully utilize these warp gates and this robotic facility. You will have enough resources to do both. So you can see here, pushing out against the opponent, probably going to be in a really good spot. He's not likely to have very much of anything. We saw him moving his Zerglings up here. He was attempting actually to get a surround on our units. You can see moving the banelings from this direction. Now dropping those force fields to stop those banelings before they get too close to our units, and you can see that with our range units we were able to actually pick them off before he did any damage. And our Zerg opponent does go ahead and call a good game. So taking a look here at everything vision, you can see he had just gotten this expansion up. Again, we were correct. Due to secondary scouting past that initial probe scout, seeing this lack of expansion early in the game, we knew he was playing one base play. From there, we made that decision that we need those sentries early in the game to defend ourselves, especially on this map with those back entrances. And then with that secondary scouting again with another probe, we saw, okay, he's one base play. What does he have for units? We saw roaches. In seeing those roaches, instead of deciding to go for a 4-gate, we dropped this robotic facility. So we turned it into a 3-gate Robo, with that robotics facility getting immortals, which again are very strong against roaches. So just go ahead and take a look at that build order real quick. We started off with that 9 Pylon, and then followed up with a 14 gateway and 14 Assimilator. Now again, this gateway needs to go up front against Zerg to do that block off. Now at 18 supplies, when we get that Cybernetics Core, 22 supply getting that second Assimilator, 26 supply, started researching that warp gate tech. Then at 27 supply, we get these 2 gateways, and we held off on the 4th gateway. We had that option for a 4-gate build, but we held off, we moved in, we saw roaches, and then we decided at that point to get this robotics facility, and that came at 32 supply. So once again, guys, this has been for StarCraft 2 Strategy. If you guys like our videos and you like what we're doing here, please do go ahead and subscribe to our channel. Keep watching and keep owning, guys. That decision is going to be based primarily on what you see your opponent getting. As you can see here, in this particular game, the Zerg opponent did have a lot of Zerglings, so Zealots would of course be the answer. If we saw a lot of Roaches, then you'd want to throw some Stalkers into the mix as well, because Stalkers will do pretty well against Roaches.